I sent you the script. I don't know if you looked at that at all. Maybe
Nope.
not.
Mm-mm.
But, you just it's pretty self-explanatory, and if I think you're on the wrong thing, I'll
Yep.
just say,
Just
next
let me
slide or
know.
something. Yeah.
Just let me know. All right, cool. Well, let me get live in our group. Um, it says starting in 35 seconds. So, yeah,
Good.
nice to we're live here, so that's good.
Looks like a little duck with headphones on.
Oh, yeah, that's the StreamYard.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, it should start up any minute. When we're in the 50 plus and fabulous group today. So, that's a fabulous group because they're very engaged. Kim is the administrator, and she's just built an amazing following. Let's get this started. Just going to go live. Okay, I see us. There we are.
I'm in the show.
You're in the show.
Great.
All right. So, and I even think we have, let me, I got to turn off the other one because I was hearing it too much. But anyway, I want to welcome everybody out there in Facebook land at 50 Plus and Fabulous, and welcome them to our group, to our presentation today, of which we have one of our long-term Purse Strings approved professionals. She's been a visionary with us at Purse Strings because she saw the benefit of really serving a female market and being part of Purse Strings. And we're so glad that she's with us today. Let me tell you a little bit about Carol. We were just chit-chatting. She hails from Naperville, Illinois, so not too far from where I am. We were just talking about how she's really an animal lover. She has, did you say chickens? How many
Yes.
chickens?
I
5?
have 4 chickens.
4 chickens. And also 5 dogs, right?
I can't hear you now.
Oh, 5 dogs. You can't hear me now. You there?
Barb, I can't hear you.
Okay, let me check it out. Did you move something on your microphone? I'm here. I see your mic should be good. My
I
mic
can't
should be
hear
good.
you.
All right, let's try this. Let me try this again. I can hear you. That's all right. We'll get this working. Can you hear my drilling in the background?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I can't hear you. So I can talk and not hear you, and I can just have that be okay.
Well, that's a shame. I don't know why I can't hear you, or you can't hear me. Let me see.
Should I go ahead?
Yeah, we can go ahead. Let's go ahead and get started. So I just wanted to say that you're from Naperville, that you're a dog lover. You've been with Purse Strings since its inception, which is really great. And that you have been in the financial industry for quite a while. How many years have you been in as a financial advisor? Oh, that's right. You can't hear me. Let me just try one more thing. Let me go to my groups. $50 and fabulous.
Okay, now I hear you.
Oh, good.
It just came back. I don't know what happened.
Okay, well, don't touch anything.
I'm not touching anything. Okay. All right, should I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. Thanks so much. We were having a little challenge here, which can be normal. So I am 50 plus and fabulous, and I welcome all of you who are 50 plus and fabulous. And my goal today is to have all of us be 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 plus and fabulous. So part of what I'm going to talk about is the work that I do and what I'm really passionate about, which is helping people pursue their dreams. And I am also passionate about educating and empowering women to be smart about their money and to understand how it works and to be prepared for retirement. So as a former stockbroker and now an independent fee-based financial planner, I help my clients to see where they are today, the potential landmines that they might encounter along the way. And then we look at a range of solutions or possible options to help protect them to achieve financial security. So when I'm not talking, as Barb was saying, you can see me spending time with my 29-year-old daughter, Alexandra. I also foster dogs. I garden, so I've got tomatoes and other vegetables that are going on right now, and I enjoy fresh eggs from my 4 chickens, which are in my backyard. So I know that you have many options for how you're going to spend the next few minutes, and I just really appreciate you for choosing to spend some time with me and learning a little bit about what the possible problems might be to encounter in retirement. So in my 40 years of helping people, both retirees and pre-retirees, navigate the twists and turns of their retirement journey, experience has taught me that most retirees will face a few, if not all, of these 7 major roadblocks in retirement. And because those roadblocks could potentially expose your retirement to unnecessary danger, I refer to them as retirement risks. And the good news is that the sooner you are educated, empowered, and take action on some of these things, the sooner you can implement strategies to help manage them. So what are the 7 financial risks that retirees face in retirement? They are longevity, inflation, sequence of returns, withdrawal rate, Social Security, healthcare, and taxes. So today I'm going to cover 3 of these. So let's spend some time together and look at what I consider are some of the major risks, the biggest one being longevity risk. So this is the first financial risk that you will face on your retirement journey. Longevity, I would argue, is perhaps the single most important risk facing retirees. So let's step back a little bit in time. Up until the 1800s, life expectancy was in the range of 30 to 40 years. Doctors only started washing their hands before surgery in the mid-1800s. Medical advancements, fewer wars, and improved living standards have increased our life expectancy. By the way, life expectancy has dropped 3 times in the last 200 years. One was during the Civil War, second was during World War I, and the third is from 2015 until today. Now, why is that? Well, it's due to unbalanced diets, sedentary lifestyle, high medical costs, and increasing rates of drug use and suicide. We don't know yet what the final impact of COVID will be or any variation of that, but that may also have an impact as well. So globally, life expectancy on average is 75 for women and 70 for men. In the United States, it's 81 for women and 77 for men. So women on average live longer. And if you're wealthy or you have resources and access to good medical care, you will probably live longer also. So that's another element that's important. So if you're 65 today, as a woman, you have a 50% chance of living to age 89. You have a 25% chance of living to age 94 and a 5% chance to live to 102. So here's a picture of my Aunt Caroline, who lived in Rancho Mirage, California. She's my mother's sister. And this was taken a year before she died at age 103. So Aunt Caroline was a traditional housewife. She never worked a day in her life. She had some retirement resources and Social Security benefits from Uncle George, who had died 30 years earlier. But this wasn't really enough to support her financially, and she needed help for her care. She had developed dementia and moved in, and she had developed dementia and had broken her hip, so she was using a walker to get around. My cousin Val, who's in her 70s, moved from Northern California to live with her mom, Aunt Caroline, as her primary caregiver for the last couple of years of her life. And frankly, neither of them had planned on that was how they were going to be spending time together, because Val was changing diapers and doing a lot of things that were, for a very dignified woman, were just not really what she wanted to be experiencing. And in my own personal life, my mother, who died at 92 a few years ago, had accumulated about $350,000 of retirement resources, but over about a 7-year period of time, she had spinal stenosis, which ended up being that she was really not mobile, and she became bedbound. So through a series of caregivers, assisted living facilities, she was basically running out of money. And she spent the last couple of years living with me, where I had a caregiver come and help take care of her. But again, she had some resources, but really hadn't planned on how long she was going to need care. So longevity risk requires a long-term view. So having a balance between growth and protection may be required to help ensure that you have enough money to last through retirement. Retirees should consider whether current sources of lifetime retirement income, such as Social Security and pensions. Remember, there used to be the three-legged stool. There was pensions, Social Security, and your investments. Well, for the most part, people now have 401ks instead of pensions. A few people still have pensions, but it's somewhat rare. So it's important that you understand what resources you already have, and then you can build on top of that. So if you're not currently receiving Social Security, you should go to ssa.gov, and that's the Social Security website, and find out what benefits you are entitled to. Now, you can start as early as 62. There are reduced benefits, and you can wait as long as age 70. And of course, every year that you wait beyond what's called your full retirement age, there's a significant increase of 8% per year. So for some people, they're waiting until age 70 to really maximize what they can get. But again, it's part of an overall plan, so it has to be integrated with your other resources and income sources. So one of the things that I offer is a customized report. It's not product specific. It's just really looking at different scenarios mathematically of if you claim at this age with this benefit, if you claim at that age. And so it shows you 3 scenarios, one of them being your optimized claiming strategy, and my contact information will be at the end. So if you would like some information on getting a free Social Security optimization report, I'm happy to provide that. So let's go on to the next risk. This is probably something that's you're aware of because it's in the news right now. The next risk is inflation. So this week, the consumer price index figures were announced and indicate that inflation, so that's my foster dog, right on time. So consumer price index was announced for the last 12 months. Inflation is running at 5%. This is the largest increase that we've seen since August of 2008. And according to a recent CNN report, we're experiencing a perfect storm. I don't know if you can read this, but we're experiencing a perfect storm of inflation. So things like steel, lumber, gasoline, housing prices, and even toilet paper are costing more. Why? Because the post-pandemic recovery is resulting in strong demand while raw materials are in shorter supply due to factory shutdowns, layoffs due to the virus, and higher shipping costs. So roughly 80% of all trade goods are shipped by sea, and freight cost surges, a shortage of containers, and backlogged ports are threatening to boost the cost of everything from toys to furniture to car parts to coffee, and all of those costs are and will be passed on to us. So in periods of high inflation, so you can see from this chart going back to 1960, we had high inflation in the late 70s, early 80s. We had inflation was 13.3% in 1979. During that time, 30-year mortgage rates hit 12.9%. The noticeable impact of inflation was unmistakable. So trying to buy a house with a mortgage at 12.9% versus maybe around 3% today, that was just the norm. So we all know high inflation is bad, but even modest rates of inflation can have a cumulative effect. So over the past 20 years, we've been experiencing relatively low inflation rates, as you can see from this chart going, from say 1990 on. So it's mostly gone unnoticed. But as a result, inflation is still there. It's compounding over time. It's just taking longer to eat away at our purchasing power. And that's really what inflation is. Remember, a loaf of bread used to be 25 cents, for example, and anything that you can think of, a gallon of gasoline, so forth. So keep in mind that the average historical rate is 3.7%. So when I do a financial plan using my planning software, we use a default rate, which is the average of 3.7%. And I like to use that because that's realistic given years like now where we do have higher inflation, and you want to be more on the conservative side when you're doing a plan. So while the recent 20-year average is only 2.1%, it's likely that the rates will eventually move closer to the historical average of the 3.7. So let's look at an example. If you have a $50,000 a year income today, at a relatively modest 3% inflation, your income will need to double in 24 years. Think about that. Your $50,000 today needs to become $100,000 in 24 years. But in periods of higher inflation, let's say 6%, that $50,000 now needs to become $100,000 in 12 years. That means it needs to double in half the time. So what that implies is if you have a pension or Social Security, which tends to have lower cost of living increases over time, that may not be enough to overcome the impact of inflation. So some of your portfolio or some of your assets make sense to have in some growth vehicle that will keep up or exceed inflation. One of the good things about inflation, and the only thing I can think of that's positive, is the cost of living for Social Security is announced in October of every year. So I've read recently that they're talking about the cost of living increase for 2022 potentially being in the range of 5.3%, which is uh, way out of line of what it's been recently, but it does reflect the fact that inflation is going up. So that'll help people who are on a fixed income. And that's the real silver lining with the higher cost of living. The next risk that we have is healthcare. Healthcare is a combination of a lot of different things, and of all the risks that we've outlined, healthcare is probably the single most difficult risk to plan for. What do I mean when I say that? So as we age, our out-of-pocket healthcare costs go up. As a result, a healthy 65-year-old couple can expect to spend just over $12,000 a year in annual out-of-pocket expenses. By the time you're age 85, that number will triple to just shy of $38,000. So why is there such a big increase in the out-of-pocket healthcare costs? And the reason is, if you think about retirement over a longer period of time, there are three distinct phases. We call these phases the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. So in the go-go years, you're retired, you're traveling, you're healthy, you're active, you're living life to the fullest. In the next phase, your slow-go years, you may have some medical condition, but your activity begins to slow and you're making more visits to the doctor's office. In your no-go years, your living independently may be challenged. And at these stages, these three stages, your healthcare use over time will go and costs will go up over time. So it's important to have a plan as an additional aspect of healthcare risk. It's important to have a plan for care as you age. So if you're 65 today, you have a 70% likelihood of needing some type of long-term care or assistance. Having a care plan can help you stay in your home if you want, have more choices for the quality of care and potentially where you're going to live. This chart just shows what the national average is for long-term care costs, and you can see that it's high and going up, I would say, at a rate higher than average inflation costs. So again, it's a big risk, something to be aware of and something to plan for. So many of you, there's a lot of different solutions that can address this. There isn't one size fits all, but it's important that you have a plan to help manage the cost of future care. Many of you may have been caregivers, so you know the impact of having a plan versus not having a plan. So to conclude, don't go it alone. Create a strategy, understand your assets and your tax allocation, keep a long-term perspective. We've only talked about 3 of the 7 risks today, but obviously it's important that you consider all of them. So I thank you for your time today. I'm looking forward to having the opportunity to work with you to help avoid potential financial risks and enjoy a more scenic route on your retirement journey. There is a printed version of this report, and there's also a PDF version of the report that can be emailed to you. So if you contact me, my contact information, I think, is on the next slide, Barb.
Okay. You know, I don't have the next slide, but I can't get to the next slide, but they can always find you through Purse Strings because you're a Purse Strings approved professional.
Okay.
And they can go right to our site and find it. Yeah.
So my website is andersonwealth.com, ANDERSONWEALTH.com. My email is canderson@FSC Advisor. There it
There you go.
is.
There you go.
There's it's called a quiz, but some of you may want to get a second opinion. You're working with someone, you're pretty happy with them, but you just want to know, does this make sense? They're telling me this, and I'm not really sure that's true. Or I just want to get somebody else's thought process on this. I'm happy to have a conversation with you, and I just thank you for being on the call today.
Yeah.
Uh, Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about what you've just presented here. You said these are 3 of the 7 risks. I
Right.
think they're very, very important. I know we don't have enough time to go over all of them, so we'll have to have you back so you can discuss some of the other ones.
Okay.
But I find it so interesting, first of all, the longevity, especially for women. And that was the big thing with purse strings. Women are going to age alone. And it's at a time where their health and welfare is very expensive, as you've shown on your charts.
Yeah.
And um, and I love how you said, it's not a one size fits all. Everybody kind of has their own kind of puzzle pieces that they need to put together. So that's so important because we are, 50 is the new 30, I think.
Yeah.
Women are getting out there and they're playing tennis and golfing and whatever. They're not going into a nursing home, that's for sure. So they're getting out there, they're living it up, they're taking better care of themselves for the most part. And yeah, I mean, we want to get out there with the go-go years. Isn't that Tom Hegna's go-go, slow go, no go?
Mm,
I've heard that a lot. And I think
yeah.
it's a great way to chunk out our retirement because our retirement can be 30 years or more.
Yeah.
So it's important.
Yeah, you can think of your money as like buckets of money. So
Yeah.
you always want to have some money in cash or available for cash flow purposes. A second bucket is more growth oriented, and then a third bucket is really designed to keep ahead of inflation. And again, everyone's situation is unique. You need to take into account how long your parents lived, what medical conditions you might have, and whether you're planning on staying in your home or maybe moving to Florida or some type of planned retirement community. There's a lot of different options. I've seen a number of people that are downsizing, that are selling their homes now and moving to somewhere smaller, maybe in Tennessee, maybe somewhere where the cost of living is a little bit lower. And each person is making that decision based on their own set of uh, circumstances.
Or puzzle pieces, as they like to say. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. And the whole thing around inflation, which is so interesting. I know people looking for a second car, those prices have gone up.
Yeah.
I know people who are trying to renovate a kitchen and the lumber prices have gone up. I
Right.
mean, everything that's like, wow, we've really kind of been flipped around here with all these different impacts. The housing boom, who would have thunk it, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's moving and transitioning. I think it's kind of things are getting stirred up, so we'll see how everything lands. So, yeah, these are great considerations for women to think about as they plan for their retirement. And working with you, Carol, is a great first step. As a purse strings approved professional, they can find all of your information that we've provided today, plus we'll have it in a handout, plus they can find you on our site as a purse strings approved professional. And we always say for women that they should work with a purse strings approved professional, and these individuals will have their, the woman's concerns front and center and help them plan for what we call a financially fearless lifestyle. So
Great.
thanks again today for presenting. I love your slides. It's very clear, it's compelling. And I think we definitely need to have you back and go over the other risks. So yeah.
Thank you. Well, I would just say the time is now.
Yes.
I think it's important. We didn't touch on this, but it's important to have an estate plan. It's important to
Yes.
have a retirement plan. And as COVID has shown us, we can't assume that tomorrow is going to be like today. And so we really have to, even if it's uncomfortable, we need to start looking at things and really planning out, where do I want to be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now?
Yeah. It takes time. It takes, gathering some documentation. But once you have all your ducks in a row, then you're all set and you can go live your retirement life. So
Sure.
sounds great. So thanks again.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you, everybody at the 50 Plus and Fabulous group. It's been wonderful presenting to this group. And if you have any questions, reach out to purstrings.co, or Carol. She's there for you as well.
Thank you.
So thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. There we go.